Welcome back to Your Empowered Birth, where I teach you how to get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, or compromise. And as you know, the whole model of the empowered birth system is you want to aim for true natural birth, and then you pull back only as much as you need to. Because the fact is that oftentimes natural birth is being taught the wrong way. You fall into those natural birth traps. Go back and watch the other videos in this series so that you can understand, because I'm actually reading from Your Empowered Birth. You're getting the entire book. So by the time these videos are done, by the time they've all been dropped, you're going to have the entire book as an audio and video recording that you can go back and listen to anytime you want. But if you do want to support me and support the Empowered Birth movement, then I encourage you to go get a copy of this book, Your Empowered Birth. It's on Amazon. So you can just go and type in Your Empowered Birth. You'll be able to find it that way. If you want more information, go and type in empoweringmomsbirth.com/book. This book also comes with extras, and I have told you about the URL. If you haven't watched the introduction and you haven't watched the natural birth traps video, go back and do that, because every single chapter builds on itself. This isn't the kind of book where you just like flip to whatever chapter. This is the kind of book that you want to read cover to cover. That's why it's also very thin, because part of the strategy of empowered birth is that you are your own best expert. You know what you need for your birth. And I have journal prompts in the last few chapters that will help you, but you also need to understand the basic psychology of the system. And I share this through story. I share this through the case stories of my friends. In fact, one of the empowered birth moms who really inspired me to get this book out here in the first place is Jenny. And before we get started, I just want to let you know, Jenny is the co-founder of the Empowered Birth Workshop and Empowered Birth Academy. A lot of the things that I taught her ended up inside Your Empowered Birth as well. And she's basically done her own thing with this as well. She has the Birth House Network. She also has Empress Birthworks. One of the things with the empowered birth system, a lot of my clients end up coming up with ideas for their own businesses. And this is what Jenny did. She not only had one, she has two. And she has other resources if you are in the birth work industry. And if you're not, if you're just a mom who really loves empowerment and you want to have a nice, comfortable t-shirt, even just to take your kids to the park in, like she's got you covered. She even has some maternity shirts. So go check out Empress Birthworks. And the proceeds also go partly to, I mean, we're moms, so it's partly for us and to put food on the table for our kids. And we're also putting a lot of the profits back into the empowered birth movement, to getting birth houses out there, to getting more information out into the hands of the moms who really need it most, to create nonprofit organizations to allow those moms to get the help and support that they truly need, and to also just spread the message, because she had a traumatic birth and she doesn't want that to happen to anybody else. And I don't want that to happen to anyone else. So when you support empowered birth, what you're really also supporting is generations to come, so that your children don't ever have to go through this trauma, so that your friends and family don't have to go through that trauma, so that other moms and other generations are going to have a better birth experience, because we all deserve that. And it starts with your empowered birth. That's the basis of the system. That's why I'm sharing this. I also have an empowered birth workshop. It's called Your Empowered Birth Workshop. And then finally, I also have a deeper dive of that, which is Your Empowered Birth Academy. Because the truth is that I started out as a coach. So I taught my entire system and I taught it to Jenny, and she went beyond with her own birth experience. And then I've also taught this to other clients, but we don't work with just anyone. And we're very exclusive because we have other things that we're building. I mean, Jenny and I are not just in the birth industry. We have other things that we're creating for ourselves. And I wanted to make sure that even if you can't get your hands on your empowered birth for whatever reason, and you just, or maybe you just want to check it out first before you purchase a copy, that you have that component. because I just am committed to you having an empowered birth. So, without further ado, we're diving into chapter 2, why birth goes wrong. Chapter 2, why birth goes wrong. Have you ever wondered how so many accidental births can happen without incident, and yet 1 in 3 births today ends in a C-section? How is it that you can be told it's too dangerous to birth at home, but then you hear stories of women who didn't even know they were pregnant and gave birth in their bathrooms? Or you hear that a vaginal birth after cesarean, VBAC, is risky, but then there's a video of a woman giving birth after 2 previous cesareans on the side of the road. There are plenty of stories like this, and they all range from normal vaginal births all the way to breech births with twins, all born unexpectedly before the mother could get to the hospital, and all of them resulting in healthy babies and healthy moms. So, what the heck is going on? Why is it so hard to actually get a completely unmedicated birth in the hospital without any interference, but people can do it accidentally all the time? Well, the answer isn't that these women are superhumans capable of birthing in a way that no mere mortal can. In fact, if you found yourself stranded in the middle of nowhere, you could very easily have the same story. Here's the secret that most people won't admit. Birth works. Birth is a physiological process that your body is designed to carry out and complete with or without any permission. It's as natural and intuitive as sneezing or going to the bathroom. You don't need anyone to actually tell you how to do it. You just need to recognize that your body will do it, and your job is to let it happen. The real reason birth has stopped working has absolutely nothing to do with your body at all. It has to do with your mindset. Specifically, it has to do with the stories you've been told and stories you're telling yourself about birth. For example, answer this question: where is the safest place to give birth? If you answered hospital, then you'll be surprised to discover that's the wrong answer. However, if you answered home, you're also wrong. Confused? That's because the answer you gave was the one you were taught to believe. If you grew up in a family where everyone went to the hospital to give birth and all your friends did the same, and all you ever heard was how dangerous home birth is, then you would naturally assume the hospital is the safest place. In contrast, if you grew up in a family where there was a lot of mistrust when it came to hospitals, and everyone gave birth at home, and all you ever heard was how dangerous it was to give birth in the hospital, then you would assume home is the safest place. Neither answer is correct because it is based on perception. The truth is, there is no universally safe place to give birth, and there is no 100% safe way to give birth. The very act of birth carries risk, and it's time to accept there are no guarantees. In fact, there's no universally safe way to exist in this world at all. If you were to step outside your home, you could be attacked by someone or something. You could get bitten by an insect carrying an infectious disease. You could accidentally step on a venomous snake out in the woods on a hiking trail. You could stand next to someone in line at a store and an active shooter could decide to open fire. Now, you could play it safe and stay home, but stray bullets have gone through windows, lightning has struck houses, and carbon monoxide has filled rooms while people are sleeping. The reality is that every day that you have been alive, there has been some sort of risk of injury or death that could have befallen you. That's not to scare you, that's to point out that your perception of risk is what informs your decisions. What does this have to do with birth? Actually, a whole lot. You see, when it comes to the way our maternity care system operates, the level of intervention in your birth depends entirely on your own perception of risk and your fear of the unknown. In other words, if you're too afraid of what might happen, then it's easier to talk you into following whatever your doctor or the hospital staff tell you to do. The problem is that birth is instinctual and entirely unique to you and your baby's physiology. It can't actually be measured or controlled. And when people do try to control it, that's when the problems arise. Here's an uncomfortable truth that you need to face. Much of what your doctor chooses to do during your birth is what leads to a cesarean. Not only that, but much of what you've been taught about birth has led to you trust in other people rather than in yourself. The actual reason birth has stopped working in our maternity care system is because when you fear birth, you end up falling into the trap that I like to call the drive-through restaurant dilemma. Basically, you've been taught to plan your birth in a way that won't actually get you to the place you want to go. Here's what I mean by that. Pretend that you're craving a nice, juicy steak at a 5-star restaurant, or if you prefer, just substitute any one of your favorite entrees that makes your mouth water. The idea here is that you have a really vivid picture of what you want. You can practically taste that delicious meal. You can't wait to savor each bite. Now, let's also pretend that you're in a new city and you don't know your way around town just yet. You really want to go out for dinner, but you have no idea how to get to your destination. You might drive around for a while with a general idea of where the restaurant is, but soon you find that you're lost and have no idea if you're even headed in the right direction. Naturally, you stop and ask some people for directions. Go this way, one person tells you. Go that way, says another. Some people try to discourage you, telling you that the restaurant you want isn't actually that great and you're better off going somewhere else. Others will insist that what you want isn't even possible at all. Nevertheless, your mouth still waters and you still really want to find that restaurant. Your stomach is rumbling and you just know that nothing less than what you want will satisfy your craving. In your search, you come across someone who cheerfully tells you that they can take you there. You won't even have to drive. Just hop in the passenger seat, kick back, and relax. They'll make sure you get to your destination. Relieved to no longer have to go through the struggle of trying to figure it out yourself, you trust this person. You gladly let them drive, and you close your eyes, content that someone else will take care of everything for you. As you're driving along, though, you start to get the sense that you might not be going in the right direction. You can't explain it fully, but you just get that feeling. You question the driver whether this is the right way, and they assure you this is the best way to get to where you want to go. You feel uneasy, but they insist they've driven there many times. They have lived here for 20 years, and you're new to this area, so you need to just trust them. Something still seems off. But because you are new to this, you wonder if maybe you're just worrying over nothing. Still, that feeling gets stronger, and it turns out to be right, because when the driver announces that you're at your destination, you find they're pulling into a fast food drive-through. When you point out that's not what you wanted, they shrug and tell you, well, you were hungry and this is still basically the same thing. A full stomach is all that matters after all. You're probably wondering who would ever trust a complete stranger to drive them to a restaurant that they've never been to. But this is exactly what you've been taught to do when it comes to planning your birth. The entire maternity care system has set you up to blindly follow and assume that they have everything under control. When birth inevitably doesn't work out, it's deemed to be your fault. Your body didn't work properly, or you had unrealistic expectations. You didn't advocate for yourself better, and they just assumed that you were okay with whatever they recommended you do. It's standard of care. These are just some of the excuses I've seen in response to complaints that my clients have filed after birth trauma. Some care providers will justify the trauma as necessary. Others might even claim they don't remember what happened. Many will cite that they were just following standard of care and therefore they are not wrong for what they did. In all these cases, though, the message is the same. Your body didn't work, they saved you and your baby, and you shouldn't be complaining at all right now. Your feelings and experiences are invalid because they are the experts. You might then turn to others to try to make sense of what happened, and then you'll run into the same rhetoric in the mom groups. It's normal. Your expectations were too high. You should just be grateful for a healthy baby. So instead of questioning the way things have always been done, you just go along with it thinking, that's the way birth is. This is ultimately what leads so many moms to believe that birth doesn't work, especially if they found themselves being pressured into an induction or a cesarean. Some mothers might go on to say, this time will be different. Others don't even want to risk going through that again and give up on having that second or third baby they desperately wanted before they were traumatized. Still, others try to justify their actions and what happened, saying, well, I just wasn't allowed, so I couldn't. Then there are those who can see behind the curtain. And we realize that actually it wasn't our bodies that failed, but the system that failed us. We realize that if we're truly going to win, we have to play the game differently than everyone else. No one understands this better than Rebecca, one of my first clients I took on when I started my coaching practice in 2021. Her story started off when she was a young mother, barely out of her teens, and she didn't know what she didn't know. She'd gone into her birth trusting in the system, only to find herself being pushed into an induction by her doctor. Because she was young and hadn't yet learned that induction of labor in a first-time mother is 3 times more likely to result in a cesarean, she had been led to believe that it was her body that was the problem. By the time she found me, she was much older and had experienced 2 cesareans. The first had been the result of a failed induction, and the second had been due to the trickery of her doctor and the hospital after she had expressed a desire to try for a VBAC. It was after attending my second empowered birth workshop that Rebecca discovered that she had been tricked out of her natural birth twice. We got on a call together, and it was abundantly clear that she was ready to learn everything she needed to learn to get the birth she actually wanted to have. The problem was there were no midwives in her area willing to support her in a home birth. So Rebecca hired me as her coach and virtual doula to help her and her partner do it themselves. After 3 months of learning how to prepare for a physiological birth and releasing her fears, Rebecca and her partner welcomed their third son into the world. He was born peacefully at home. His father caught him in his hands, and Rebecca reclaimed her power and confidence that her body was capable of anything. The big takeaway here is that if you or other people in your life have had traumatic or disappointing birth experiences, or been led to believe your body didn't work properly, then you may want to re-examine those beliefs. You can have a birth with less pain and little to no intervention, where you discover the immense power that is already inside of you. The entire culture of maternity care in the medical system is based on the idea that your body is defective and needs help in order to birth effectively. But it's all a lie. And as you will discover in the next 2 stories, there is a way out. I like to share a lot of stories when I teach because stories are powerful. They show you things that data and science just can't do. And you see possibilities that you might otherwise never know about. So the function of this book is to teach you mostly through story and then draw on those stories to show you the most powerful system that you will ever learn. I call the system the 5 pillars of empowerment. And specifically because this book is about birth, the 5 pillars of empowered birth. I developed this after my first birth ended in trauma and disempowerment. It was born out of my desire to reclaim my power and my birth experiences. And I then went on to have an amazing, transformative, essentially painless home birth. I then took it a step further and decided to teach other women how they could do the same. So you're about to learn something so powerful that you will no longer come to your birth afraid, but instead be able to confidently ask for what you want and stand your ground, even when others tell you to give in and do what you're told. Once you unlock these secrets, you'll be able to do anything. In fact, you might even say that what you are about to learn is very dangerous indeed. Because feminine power is a dangerous weapon against oppression, control, and mistrust. I'm going to help you awaken inside of you that deep maternal instinct that will lead to you stepping into your true power as a mother. Once you learn this, you'll never be the same. But first, I'm going to share with you how I was able to reclaim my power in my birth when the chips were down. And hopefully, you'll be able to learn from my mistakes. So that concludes chapter 2. In the next chapter, I'm going to actually share the story of how I came to my first birth, the mistakes that I made in that birth experience, and how that ultimately led to me seeing what was really going on in the medical system and realizing that going in without that knowledge can screw you over out of your natural birth. Now, I managed to get my natural birth, but not without having to fight, beg, or compromise. I did end up with birth trauma from it. And that is really when I realized this is not okay. And then I launched into 2 years as a birth advocate, teaching this concept, helping other moms to understand what was really going on, and developing my system. So the next 2 chapters, of course, I teach about the harsh lesson I learned with my first and reclaiming birth with my second. And I just want to remind you again that the empowered birth system isn't just about birth. It's also about transforming other aspects of your life. And you may have noticed that I'm wearing a really unique t-shirt, something that's probably not easily found in stores. And the reason for that is because after Jenny had her empowered birth with her daughter, she ended up deciding we needed merchandise. And I'm like, Jenny, I don't have time to design t-shirts. And she's like, that's okay. I've already designed them. And this was one of the first designs. So I'm just going to show you. Every birth can and should be a beautiful and empowering experience. Talk to me if this statement is triggering. So you can go and get that off of her Etsy shop. And I'm going to be dropping the link inside of the description. You can also go and check her out, Empress Birthworks. She has her social media. You can just look her up. But Empress Birthworks is one of Jenny's businesses. She actually birthed 2. So she has 2 babies. One was a traumatic birth, and then she had her empowered birth with her second. And then she ended up birthing businesses. This is really why this is so powerful, is that when you have an empowered birth, nobody can take your power away from you. Like, you basically become an empowered mom for life. So I'm just going to let you know, if you do love this t-shirt, it is available. You can go check out Jenny's designs at Empress Birthworks. And if this particular design isn't available, you can always just reach out. hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I can reach out to Jenny. I can say, hey, there's a lot of demand for this one. And then she'll probably put it back out in rotation. But she changes her designs up, so I can't guarantee that this exact one is going to be available. But this is the thing, is that when you support either the birthhousenetwork.com or Empress Birthworks or anything else under the Empowering Moms Birth label and what Jenny is doing, this is also going to help transform birth. As you can see now, natural birth is in danger because the way that the medical system is running on profit, convenience, liability. Also, they can't see water. They're in fear. They're afraid. They're trying to control something that can't actually be controlled. And it's limiting options for some people where they're in maternity care deserts. So by supporting the empowered birth movement, you're also allowing us to create nonprofits. We're able to do more for those communities where maybe it's not accessible. They can't get a midwife. They can't have a home birth. They're too far away from a hospital. And maybe the only hospital that's around is like, they don't do VBAC and they push everybody into a C-section. So by supporting empowered birth, you're also allowing these moms to have more advantages. And if you're loving these videos and you're loving this book and you want to get a copy, it is available on Amazon. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.